And we had some guests in the studio last week in the Guam Under Construction segment. And those of you latecomers that always tune in on your drive might not have heard that segment. But as I understood it, the Society of Military Engineers is putting on a workshop about some of the implementation of some of the new building codes that are to be implemented with a great focus on some of the new seismic specifications and requirements. And I was hearing from a friend of mine that a special guest for this particular event is one Dr. S.K. Ghosh, the president of a group that runs his organization out of Palatine, Illinois, and also out of an area in California. Specialist in engineering services, codes, standards, and because of his expertise, he's been invited out to this part of the world just for this particular workshop that's coming up. And I said, we've got to have that guy in the studio because earthquakes, we don't think about them until, of course, up here on the 8th floor, the building starts rocking. And I think, who was it exactly that designed this particular building? And I know a lot of you feel exactly the same. And so, with that, we welcome back to the program our friend Brent Weesey, who joins us from RIM Architect. Thanks for coming back, Brent. Appreciate it. And also in the studio, we've got Jim Atkinson from Chugach, and our visitor, Dr. Ghosh. Dr. Ghosh, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Nice being here.
Well, I tell you what, when we talked about this workshop that is coming up, and it is this week. We talked a little bit about with Brent and some of our other friends about all of the areas that are being covered, and it sounds like everybody's in the military there with the schedule. This is one thing right after the other. A whole lot of areas that are going to be covered for sure. But first, maybe we could start with a little bit of your area of expertise, and who is it that brought you out here to Guam to begin with?
My area of expertise is really earthquake engineering. I'm a structural engineer by profession, specializing in earthquake engineering. My coming out here was actually initiated by Simpson Strong Ties, but then they involved the Society of Military Engineers.
Oh, I see.
And then it really took off after they got involved.
I understand. Now, how did you get into this particular area of expertise? I realize in Illinois, up there near Palatine, not a huge amount of earthquakes, but you've got the New Madrid Fault. I guess you could drive to see that one. How did you get interested in this general area to begin with?
Yeah, I was recruited out of graduate school by the cement industry organization, Portland Cement Association. At that time, they had a big federal contract to research on building design against earthquake damage. And I was recruited to take part in that project, and this is how I got into earthquake engineering. Found it interesting, stayed with it, and I'm still in it.
Oh, I see. Well, thank you very much for a little bit of the backstory. Now, with some of the new codes that are to be implemented, are there some sweeping changes that are going to need to be implemented here on Guam?
Sweeping changes in one way, not in another way. From the 2009 edition to the 2012 edition of the International Building Code, which is what Guam is thinking about going to. Earthquake engineering provisions have changed significantly, and so have wind-related provisions.
So we've got both of those issues here on Guam.
Yes, very big issues in both areas on Guam. The reason I say that changes are big in one way, conceptually they are big. but the end result, whether the design you get out of the new code will be very different from that given by the old code, the answer is in most cases no.
Really?
Yeah.
If you could maybe elaborate in a little bit in a way that a layperson like me that knows approximately nothing about engineering and design might understand.
Yeah, let's take the example of seismic maps, which tell us how earthquake-prone an area is.
Mm-hmm.
There are 4 significant changes in the maps from the 2009 to the 2012 IBC.
Mm-hmm.
It so happens that 2 of the 4 changes decrease the earthquake ground motion compared to before. The other 2 changes increase them compared to before, and the net result is in most parts of the country no big changes.
Oh, I see.
It just turns out that way.
Okay. What areas of the country would experience a change, and what are the areas where the changes are?
There are spots in California with significant increases, coastal Oregon with significant increases, the Midwest of the United States rather significant decreases. So but overall the changes are not big.
Oh, okay.
Like on an average, the changes are not big.
I see. One more great reason to live on Guam. No significant changes. Okay. And what about as far as about wind regulations? Have there been any significant changes there?
Yeah, wind. Before I go to wind, Guam up to 2012 IBC, no significant changes, but beyond, we already know the seismicity of Guam will be very seriously upgraded. Guam will be, under the 2015 IBC, much more highly seismic than it is today.
Really?
So big changes are coming beyond 2012.
Oh, I didn't realize that. And how come?
U.S. Geological Survey has redone the maps the way the rest of the country has now been mapped. The 4 changes that I was talking about, those did not come to Guam. USGS ran out of time to do the changes for 2012 IBC.
Oh, I see. It's not because there's no upgrade. It's because they didn't get to us. That's because we're less than company.
They're a little late. so 2015 it is coming, and in the case of Guam, those changes are adding up to big increases.
Now, will this result? I know. Anyone that has built a building and is responsible for a building, their first thought is, am I going to have to spend a bunch of money retrofitting an existing structure to meet these new guidelines?
That is almost never required.
Okay.
A building code does not apply retroactively.
Fantastic. Well, I'm in the business of building buildings, and is it going to cost me a lot more to build new structures?
It is going to cost more to build new structures under the 2015 IBC, yes.
Really? In what particular areas?
The seismic design is going to cost more. Now that does not mean, I want to emphasize, we have to design for wind, we have to design for earthquake, so the net result may not be the kind of increase that would have happened if we were designing only for earthquake.
Oh, I see.
Also, it is important to keep in mind that the cost of a structure is no more than 20% or so of the cost of the building. So when I talk about cost increase, it is the cost of the structure that is increasing, and that would be a much smaller percentage of the cost of the building.
If you're just joining us and you're wondering who is this knowledgeable man, who can tell us the future and what's been taking place with the IBC codes and what will happen, his name is Dr. Ghosh. He's a professional engineer and a guest speaker for the IBC workshop that will be coming up. And before we run out of time, gentlemen, Brent and Jim, perhaps you could give us the details on how to get involved in this, because I know just from this short conversation there are a lot of people thinking, I would like to know a lot more about this.
Thanks, Travis. Yes, if anybody is interested in attending the workshop, it's tomorrow, Wednesday the 20th at 8 o'clock at the Hyatt Regency Hotel. It's, as Travis said, it's sponsored by the SAMI organization. We have a couple of good sponsors that have helped us put this together and bring Dr. Ghosh out here. It's expensive to bring someone of that caliber to the island, but it's well worth it, so hopefully we'll be well attended. I think last count we had over 80 participants planned.
Oh, is that right? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Very big attendance, but that's tomorrow.
Oh, okay, so it's and it's not too late to get registered and,
No, you
and
can
to
show
attend.
up at the door and sign in.
Okay, well, from the sounds of things, it could be a lot more expensive not to attend and find out what some of these things are on the horizon. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for taking just a little bit of time and stopping by this afternoon. If we've got even one or two people that might have missed the word that this conference was going on and the fact that Dr. Ghosh is here, then I'm glad, and it was well worth the opportunity, and I appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
And Jim and Brent, thanks for making the time
Sure.
to stop by this afternoon. This is The Big Show. You're welcome.